Chapter 1. The Calm Before. Maxwell Turner stood in the doorway of his daughter's room, watching her pack for college with the kind of methodical precision she'd inherited from him. At 18, Iris had grown into a remarkable young woman, sharp-minded, compassionate, fiercely independent. Her dark hair fell across her face as she folded sweaters, debating between the blue one and the gray. "Dad, you're doing the staring thing again," Iris said without looking up, a smile playing at her lips. Maxwell chuckled, leaning against the doorframe. "Can't a father be proud? MIT doesn't accept just anyone, especially into their biomedical engineering program. Neither does the Turner household," Iris shot back. "You didn't raise me to be just anyone." She wasn't wrong. Maxwell had raised her alone. Well, not entirely alone. His wife Louisa had entered their lives when Iris was 5, a kindergarten teacher with endless patience and a heart big enough to love a child that wasn't biologically hers. Together, they'd built something beautiful from the wreckage Arlene had left behind. Arlene. His sister's name still tasted bitter after all these years. "The trust fund paperwork came through yesterday," Maxwell said carefully, watching Iris's reaction. "Your biological father's family attorney finally cleared everything. It's substantial, Iris. Enough for MIT, med school if you want it, and a solid start after graduation." Iris finally looked up, her gray eyes, so unlike his, so much like the father she'd never known, meeting his. "Keith Boyer was his name, right? The guy who died in a construction accident before you were born," Maxwell finished gently. "His family wanted to make sure you were taken care of. The trust was established before his death, but it took his estate lawyers 18 years to finally settle everything and locate you. Thanks to you," Iris said softly. "You kept all the records, maintained contact with his family's attorney. You made sure I got what he wanted me to have." Maxwell said nothing. That was his way. Actions over words, preparation over promises. He'd learned that lesson 18 years ago when his sister had shattered every promise she'd ever made. The doorbell rang. "Pizza's here," Louisa called from downstairs. "Iris, your last Friday night home before the dorms steal you from us." As Iris bounded past him, Maxwell's phone buzzed. An email from an unfamiliar sender with a subject line that made his blood run cold. "Legal notice, Turner family matter." He opened it in the hallway, his attorney instincts, honed from years working as a civil litigation architect, not a lawyer himself, but the strategist behind complex cases, immediately analyzing every word. Notice of custody petition. Arlene Turner versus Maxwell Turner. Superior Court. His sister was suing him for full custody of Iris. Chapter 2. 18 years passed. Maxwell didn't go downstairs for pizza. He sat on the top step, rereading the petition until the words blurred together. Louisa found him there 20 minutes later. "Iris is wondering if you're okay," she said quietly, settling beside him. Then she saw the phone screen. Her hand found his. "Oh God." She came back. "Not for Iris," Maxwell said, his voice steady despite the rage building in his chest. "For the money. The trust fund was just finalized. This is filed 3 days later." That's not a coincidence. Louisa had heard the story before, but never all of it. Nobody had. Even Iris only knew the sanitized version. Her mother had been young, overwhelmed, and had made a painful choice to leave her with family who could provide stability. The truth was uglier. 18 years earlier, Maxwell had been 27, working his way up at a litigation consulting firm, sharing a modest apartment with his college buddy Clayton Pennington. Their parents had died in a car accident 2 years prior. A drunk driver, no survivors in the other vehicle, a settlement that barely covered funeral costs. Arlene had spiraled. At 24, she'd bounced between cities, between men, between delusions of grandeur. When she got pregnant, she'd briefly tried to convince herself Keith Boyer would marry her, give her the life she thought she deserved. Keith's death ended that fantasy. Maxwell still remembered the night she appeared at his door, hollow-eyed and 8 months pregnant. "I can't do this," she'd said. "I won't." He'd convinced her to stay, found her an apartment nearby, helped with groceries and doctor's appointments. He'd believed she would adjust, that motherhood would anchor her. The night Iris was born, Arlene held her daughter for exactly 4 minutes before handing her to the nurse and walking out of the hospital. 3 weeks later, she'd appeared at Maxwell's door at 2 a.m. The baby carrier hit his doormat with a thud that still echoed in his nightmares. One night, Arlene had said, her eyes wild and empty, "I just need one night to clear my head." The diaper bag had enough supplies for maybe 12 hours. No note, no instructions, just a 3-week-old baby girl and the sound of Arlene's heels clicking down the hallway, getting fainter, then silent. She never returned. Maxwell had filed a police report after 48 hours. They'd found Arlene 3 states away, shacked up with a man she'd met online, already denying she'd ever had a child. The officer assigned to the case had been sympathetic but clear, without evidence of abuse or immediate danger, and with Arlene claiming Maxwell had volunteered to take Iris, there wasn't much they could do. Get a lawyer, the officer had advised. Formal custody. Protect yourself. Maxwell had done exactly that. Arlene had signed the papers without even reading them, witnessed by a notary public and her flavor-of-the-month boyfriend. Full physical and legal custody to Maxwell Turner, with Arlene Turner voluntarily relinquishing all parental rights and responsibilities. She'd smiled as she signed, already thinking about the next city, the next man, the next escape from consequences. "I kept everything," Maxwell told Louisa now, his voice hard. Every document, every email, every text message where she pretended Iris didn't exist, every birthday that passed without a card, every Christmas without even a phone call. "Why now?" Louisa asked. After 18 years of nothing? Maxwell showed her the trust fund letter, watched her expression shift from confusion to disgust. The petition claims she's been clean and sober for 3 years, that she's found stability and wants to rebuild a relationship with her daughter, Maxwell said, quoting the legal filing. "It claims I've alienated Iris from her biological mother, and that, now that Iris is 18, Arlene wants to make amends and provide guidance as her daughter enters adulthood." Iris is 18, Louisa pointed out. Can't she just refuse? Technically, yes. But Arlene's lawyers are smart. They're not actually seeking custody in the traditional sense. Iris is an adult. They're seeking a declaration of parental rights, which would give Arlene legal standing to access Iris's trust fund as her guardian for guidance and financial management until Iris turns 21. Louisa's eyes widened. "They're going after the money directly, and they're counting on me not fighting it," Maxwell said. "They're counting on me taking a settlement, maybe agreeing to some kind of shared arrangement where Arlene gets access to funds for Iris's benefit. They think I'll want to avoid a public trial, avoid putting Iris through testimony about her abandonment." "Will we?" Louisa asked. "Take a settlement?" Maxwell's smile was sharp, cold, and absolutely certain. "No, we're going to bury her." Chapter 3, Assembling the Arsenal. Harris Reed had been Maxwell's professional contact for over a decade, a family law attorney with a reputation for scorched earth litigation when the situation demanded it. Monday morning, Maxwell sat across from him in a downtown office that overlooked the city, a thick folder on the desk between them. "You kept all of this?" Harris asked, flipping through 18 years of documentation. Birth certificate, hospital records, police report from when Arlene disappeared, the custody agreement she'd signed, email exchanges where Maxwell had tried, in those first few years, to keep Arlene updated on Iris's milestones, only to receive responses like, "Stop messaging me about that," and "I don't care." "I'm a litigation strategist," Maxwell said simply. "I prepare for every contingency. This is more than preparation. This is..." Harris paused, choosing his words carefully. "Most people would have thrown half of this away. Moved on. I couldn't move on. Not when I knew, deep down, that Arlene would come back the moment there was something in it for her." Harris nodded slowly. "Tell me about the trust fund." Maxwell explained. Keith Boyer, Iris's biological father, had been a union construction worker from a wealthy family. He died when a crane malfunctioned, and the wrongful death settlement combined with his family's estate had funded a substantial trust for any children he might have. The lawyers had taken 18 years to navigate family disputes and locate Iris, but now the money was secured, $2.3 million, accessible when she turned 18, with full control at 21. Arlene found out how. Harris asked. The estate lawyer had to verify Iris's identity. They contacted the hospital where she was born, got her birth certificate. Arlene's name is on it, as the mother. Somehow, she got wind of the inquiry. And now she wants in. She wants everything, Maxwell corrected. Look at the petition. Stuart Wiley is representing her. He's expensive. Someone's bankrolling this. Harris pulled up Stuart Wiley's profile on his computer. Corporate attorney, mainly. Some high-net-worth divorces. Not usually the type to take a custody case unless. He stopped, reading further. Unless the client has deep pockets or significant assets. So who's funding Arlene? Maxwell mused aloud. The answer came 2 days later, delivered by Clayton Pennington, Maxwell's old roommate who now worked in background investigations for corporate hiring. Clayton had done Maxwell a favor, a deep dive into Arlene's current life. Your sister's been busy, Clayton said, dropping a file on Maxwell's kitchen table. Louisa poured coffee while Iris was at school, taking her final week of classes before graduation. She married up. Way up. Irving Ariano, real estate developer, owns half the new waterfront condos going up on the east side. Worth about $40 million, give or take. Maxwell flipped through the file. Wedding photos from 2 years ago, Arlene in designer white, smiling that same empty smile he remembered. Society page mentions. Charity gala appearances. Here's the thing, Clayton continued. I talked to a friend who works in Ariano's company. There's rumors the marriage is rocky. Ariano's traditional, old school. Came from nothing, built his empire himself. Word is, he has no idea Arlene has a daughter. Maxwell looked up sharply. She never told him? Never even hinted. She's been playing the role of the childless woman who married for love, volunteers at art galleries, does the society wife thing. If Ariano found out she abandoned a baby 18 years ago, Clayton shrugged. That's not the kind of woman a man like him would marry. So she's trapped, Louisa said softly. If she doesn't claim Iris now, and the trust fund goes public, Ariano might find out anyway. But if she claims Iris, presents it as reconnecting with the daughter she gave up for a better life, she controls the narrative. And gets access to $2.3 million, Maxwell added. Money that Ariano can't touch in a divorce. Money that's technically Iris's, but that Arlene could help manage as the loving mother making up for lost time. Clayton grinned. So what's the play? Maxwell thought of Iris. Brilliant, kind, entirely unprepared for the viper about to slither into her life. He thought of Arlene, calculating as always, trading her own daughter for social standing and cash. He thought of the sealed envelope he'd been preparing in his mind for 18 years. We let her bury herself, Maxwell said. She wants to play the reformed mother? We'll let her audition for the role in front of a judge, on the record, and then we'll show him exactly who she really is. The custody hearing is in 3 weeks, Harris had told him. Stuart Wiley's pushing for a fast resolution, probably hoping you'll settle to avoid dragging Iris through court. We're not settling, Maxwell had said then, and he repeated it now to Clayton and Louisa. We're going to war, and Arlene's going to learn that abandoning your child has consequences that last a lifetime. He opened his laptop, pulling up a document he'd started drafting years ago, a comprehensive timeline of every moment Arlene had chosen herself over Iris. Every missed birthday, every ignored milestone, every man she'd chosen over her daughter. Every piece of evidence that would prove, beyond any doubt, that Arlene Turner was incapable of love for anyone but herself. The envelope wouldn't just win him the case. It would destroy her completely. And that, Maxwell thought grimly, was exactly what she deserved. Chapter 4, Discovery. The subpoenas started flying immediately. Stuart Wiley was good. Maxwell had to give him that. Within a week of filing, Arlene's legal team had requested depositions from Maxwell's neighbors, Iris's teachers, even Louise's colleagues at the elementary school where she taught. They were building a narrative. Maxwell as the controlling uncle who'd isolated Iris from her biological mother. Louisa as the stepmother who'd replaced Arlene without legal authority to do so. It was bullshit, but it was strategic bullshit. Maxwell's counter-discovery was surgical. He'd spent 18 years in litigation strategy, learning how to build airtight cases from fragments of evidence. Now he deployed every skill he'd ever learned. First stop, Arlene's old landlord. Vince Hunter was 70 now, retired from property management, but still sharp as a tack. He remembered Arlene immediately. That girl, he said, shaking his head as he poured Maxwell coffee in his living room. Broke her lease when she was 8 months pregnant, left the place a disaster. I tried to track her down for the damages, but she'd disappeared. Then I heard she'd had the baby and left it with family. That was you. That was me, Maxwell confirmed. I'm trying to establish a pattern of abandoned responsibilities. Would you be willing to testify to her lease breaking? Son, I'd testify that she stole my security deposit and left food rotting in the fridge. She owed me 3 months' rent and never looked back. Maxwell added Vince Hunter to his witness list. Next, Arlene's employment history. Clayton had pulled her social security records, not entirely legally, but Maxwell wasn't playing by gentlemen's rules anymore. Arlene had worked 11 different jobs in 18 years, never lasting more than 14 months at any single position. Waitress, retail clerk, receptionist. Always entry-level, always ending either in termination or sudden abandonment. Maxwell tracked down her former supervisor at a restaurant where she'd worked 6 years ago. The woman remembered Arlene as charming but unreliable, someone who'd called in sick constantly, claimed family emergencies that never checked out, and eventually just stopped showing up. Did she ever mention having a daughter? Maxwell asked. A daughter? Arlene. The supervisor laughed bitterly. She could barely take care of herself, let alone a kid. No, she never mentioned any children. More witnesses. More evidence of a woman who'd spent 18 years running from responsibility, accountability, and truth. But Maxwell's most valuable discovery came from an unlikely source, social media. Iris, like most teenagers, had a moderate online presence. Instagram, TikTok, the usual. Maxwell had never monitored it heavily. He trusted her judgment. But now, reviewing her followers and friend requests, he noticed something odd. A profile with no photos, generic username, had been following Iris for exactly 4 months. The account had never posted, never commented, but had viewed every story Iris shared. Maxwell sent the profile to Clayton. Can you trace this? 2 days later, Clayton called back. Burner email, VPN routing, the whole deal. But whoever set it up wasn't as careful as they thought. The account was created from an IP address registered to an Irving Ariano property, specifically his home network. Arlene had been stalking her own daughter online for months, watching and waiting for the right moment to strike. She knew about the trust fund 4 months ago, Maxwell realized. She's been planning this for months. There's more, Clayton said. I dug into Irving Ariano's finances. He's overextended, big development deal that's underwater, creditors circling. That $40 million net worth? More like $20 million in assets against $15 million in debts. If his current project fails, he could lose everything. Arlene married him thinking he was her meal ticket, Maxwell said slowly. Now the ticket's expiring, and she needs a backup plan. A $2.3 million backup plan, Clayton confirmed, with Iris's name on it, but Arlene's hands all over it if she can get legal standing. Maxwell added this to his growing file. The envelope was getting thicker. Chapter 5, The Charm Offensive. Arlene made her move on a Tuesday afternoon. Iris came home from school pale and shaken, clutching her phone. Louisa was first to reach her, guiding her to the kitchen table. She was there, Iris whispered. Outside school, waiting by the gates. Maxwell felt ice flood his veins. Who? She said she was my mother. Arlene. Iris looked up, tears threatening. She was crying, Dad. She said she'd made terrible mistakes and just wanted a chance to talk. She said you'd been keeping her away from me all these years. Louisa's hand found Maxwell's under the table, squeezing tight. Keep calm. Stay smart. What did you say to her? Maxwell asked gently. I said I needed to talk to you first. She gave me her number, said I could call anytime. Then she hugged me, and Dad. Iris's voice broke. She knew things. She knew I got into MIT. She knew about my science fair project sophomore year. She's been watching me. For 4 months, Maxwell confirmed. We found her fake social media profile. Iris's shock gave way to anger. She's been stalking me. Gathering ammunition, Maxwell said. She's building a case that she's been trying to reconnect, but I've been preventing it. By approaching you directly, she's establishing that you're receptive to contact. If you'd hugged her back, taken her number willingly, she'd use that in court to claim there's a mother-daughter bond that needs legal protection. But I didn't, Iris said fiercely. I told her to leave me alone until I understood what was happening. And I came straight home to you. Smart girl, Louisa murmured. That's our smart girl. But Arlene wasn't done. That evening, she posted on Facebook, her well-curated profile full of charity events and society photos suddenly revealing a deeply personal truth. After 18 years of pain and regret, I finally saw my daughter today. I made mistakes when I was young, mistakes I've spent every day trying to atone for. I gave her to my brother because I wanted her to have stability I couldn't provide. But now, watching her grow into an amazing young woman from afar, I can't stay silent anymore. I want to be part of her life. I want to be her mother. If you're reading this, Iris, I love you. I always have. I'm fighting for us. Hashtag never too late. Hashtag mothers love. Hashtag second chances. The post went viral within hours. News outlets picked it up. Mother fights for reunion after 18 years separation. The comments section flooded with support for Arlene's courage and condemnation for the unnamed brother who'd kept them apart. Maxwell's phone exploded with messages from colleagues, friends, distant relatives he hadn't spoken to in years. Most were supportive, but some were questioning. Why didn't you let her see Iris? Doesn't she deserve a second chance? Iris read the post and cried, not from sadness, but from rage. She's lying. She makes it sound like she gave me to you out of love, like you're the villain keeping us apart. That's the narrative she's selling, Maxwell said grimly. And it's working. Harris Reed called an emergency meeting. Stuart Wiley is using this post as evidence of Arlene's transformation. They're arguing that she's been desperate to reconnect, but you've been blocking her. Combined with her sob story about being a young, scared mother who made a sacrifice for her child's well-being. It's compelling, Maxwell. It's fiction, Maxwell snapped. Fiction told well enough becomes truth in court, Harris countered. We need to control this narrative. I want to put Iris on the stand. No. Maxwell's response was immediate and absolute. I won't subject her to cross-examination from Stuart Wiley. He'll twist her words, make her seem confused or coached. Then we need something bigger, Harris said. Something that destroys Arlene's credibility so thoroughly that no judge would believe her reformed mother act. Maxwell thought of the envelope, of the documents he'd been compiling for 18 years, of the final piece he'd recently discovered, evidence so damning, so absolutely character-destroying, that even Stuart Wiley's best spin couldn't save Arlene. But he needed one more thing to make it perfect. I need to meet with Arlene, Maxwell said suddenly. Harris frowned. That's highly irregular. You're opposing parties in active litigation. I know. Set it up anyway. Tell Stuart Wiley I'm willing to discuss a potential settlement. Let them think they're winning. What are you planning? Louisa asked quietly. Maxwell's smile was thin and dangerous. I'm giving Arlene enough rope to hang herself. And I'm making sure she does it on the record. The meeting was set for the following Thursday, 1 week before the custody hearing. Maxwell had 7 days to prepare his trap. And Arlene, in her arrogance, was walking straight into it. Chapter 6, the final piece. The settlement meeting took place at Stuart Wiley's office, neutral ground, or so Arlene thought. Maxwell arrived alone, against Harris Reed's advice, carrying only a slim leather portfolio. Arlene looked different. Older, yes, but also polished in a way she'd never been before. Designer clothes, professional makeup, hair styled expensively. Irving Ariano's money had transformed her from the desperate, hollow-eyed woman he remembered into a convincing facsimile of respectability. But her eyes hadn't changed. Still calculating. Still empty. Maxwell, she said, her voice warm but careful. Stuart Wiley sat beside her, recording the meeting on a digital device. Thank you for agreeing to talk. I'm here for Iris, Maxwell said flatly. Not for you. Of course. Iris is what matters. Arlene folded her hands on the table, the picture of maternal concern. I know I made mistakes. You abandoned your 3-week-old daughter on my doorstep and disappeared for 18 years, Maxwell interrupted. Let's not pretty it up. Stuart Wiley interjected smoothly. My client acknowledges her past difficulties. She was young, struggling, and made the heartbreaking decision to place Iris with family who could provide better care. That's not abandonment. That's sacrifice. Is that what we're calling it? Maxwell asked. Sacrifice. I was 24 years old, Arlene said, tears welling on cue. Keith had just died. I was alone, terrified, broke. I knew I couldn't give Iris the life she deserved. So I gave her to you, the most responsible person I knew, because I loved her too much to let her suffer. It was a good performance. Maxwell could see why it had worked on social media, why the court of public opinion had swung her way. And now, he asked. Now I'm stable. Married, financially secure, emotionally healthy. I've done the work, Maxwell. Therapy, sobriety, building a life worth sharing. I want Iris to be part of that life. You want access to her trust fund, Maxwell said bluntly. Arlene's mask slipped for just a second, a flash of anger, quickly suppressed. I want to help her manage it responsibly. She's 18, Maxwell. She's legally an adult, but still a child in so many ways. That much money, that much freedom, it's dangerous without guidance. And you're qualified to guide her? Maxwell asked. You, who've held 11 jobs in 18 years. Who've never saved a dollar in your life. Who married a man for his money only to find out he's drowning in debt. Stuart Wiley stiffened. How did you? I'm a litigation strategist, Maxwell said calmly. I research. I verify. I know Irving Ariano's development company is underwater. I know your marriage is a facade. I know you've been stalking Iris online for 4 months, timing your reunion for exactly when the trust fund was finalized. I know everything, Arlene. The temperature in the room dropped. Arlene's tears dried up, her expression hardening into something uglier. You think you're so smart, she hissed. You think you can keep her from me? She's my daughter. She's the daughter you threw away like garbage, Maxwell said, his voice deadly quiet. And now you want her back because she's worth $2.3 million. That's all this is. Money. Prove it, Arlene challenged. Go ahead, Maxwell. Tell a judge that I only want custody for money. They'll call it slander. They'll say you're a controlling guardian who can't handle sharing your niece. I don't need to tell the judge, Maxwell said. He opened his portfolio and removed a single document, a printed email. You did that yourself. He slid it across the table. Stuart Wiley picked it up, his face paling as he read. It was an email from Arlene to her husband Irving, sent 2 weeks before she filed the custody petition. Maxwell had obtained it through Clayton's investigation. Irving's company email server had lacked security, and a well-placed bribe to a disgruntled IT employee had given them access. The email read, I found out about Kay's trust fund. $2.3 million for the kid. If I file for custody now, I can claim parental rights to manage it. The court will probably give me at least partial control until she's 21. That's 3 years of access to funds we desperately need for your development project. I'll spin it as wanting to reconnect, play the reformed mother angle. M won't fight hard. He's too soft. Always has been. This is our way out of the debt hole. Trust me. Arlene's face went white. Stuart Wiley set down the email carefully, his expression professionally neutral, but his eyes furious. Where did you get that? Arlene demanded. Discovery. Maxwell lied smoothly. Irving's company email is subject to subpoena in financial investigations. We petitioned the court for access to any communications regarding Iris or the trust fund. This was flagged in the search. It wasn't true. The email had been obtained through less legal means. But Stuart Wiley couldn't prove that without admitting he'd been blindsided by his own client's stupidity. This is inadmissible, Stuart said, but his voice lacked conviction. Perhaps, Maxwell agreed. But it's not the only evidence I have. I have witness testimony from everyone you've ever screwed over, Arlene. Landlords, employers, friends. I have documentation of every single time you denied Iris existed. I have proof you've been stalking her online for months. And I have the original custody agreement you signed, voluntarily and enthusiastically, relinquishing all parental rights. He leaned forward, holding Arlene's gaze. You want to go to trial? We'll go to trial. And I will destroy you so completely that Irving will leave you. Your social standing will evaporate, and you'll be exposed as exactly what you are, a parasite who sees her own daughter as a paycheck. Arlene's hands shook. You can't. I can, Maxwell said. And I will. Unless you withdraw your petition right now, walk away, and never contact Iris again. Stuart Wiley touched Arlene's arm. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. No. Arlene snapped, slapping his hand away. He's bluffing. That email doesn't prove anything except that I was considering financial planning for Iris's inheritance. A judge will see it my way. Maxwell stood, collecting his portfolio. Then we'll see you in court. I look forward to it. As he reached the door, Arlene called out, She'll hate you for this. When Iris finds out you kept her mother away from her for 18 years, she'll never forgive you. Maxwell turned back, his expression pitying. Iris already knows everything. I told her the truth the day you filed your petition. I showed her the police report from when you abandoned her. I showed her the custody agreement you couldn't sign fast enough. I showed her the emails where you told me to stop messaging about that thing. Her words, Arlene. You called your daughter that thing. Arlene's face crumpled. She doesn't hate me, Maxwell continued quietly. She pities you. And she's testifying on my behalf. Voluntarily. Eagerly. Because she wants the world to know exactly what kind of mother you are. He left Stuart Wiley's office and didn't look back. The envelope was complete. The trap was set. Now all that remained was to spring it in front of Judge Benjamin Hale, on the record, with no escape route for Arlene Turner. Chapter 7. The Prosecution. The courtroom was packed. Arlene's social media campaign had drawn media attention, and the gallery filled with reporters, bloggers, and curious onlookers drawn by the drama of a mother fighting for her lost daughter. Judge Benjamin Hale was a stern man in his 60s, known for his no-nonsense approach to family law. He surveyed the circus his courtroom had become with visible distaste. This is a custody hearing, not a media event, he said sharply as cameras flashed. Anyone attempting to record will be removed and held in contempt. This courtroom will maintain decorum. The crowd settled reluctantly. Stuart Wiley stood, smoothing his expensive suit. Your Honor, my client Arlene Turner seeks only what every mother deserves, a relationship with her child. 18 years ago, she made the painful decision to place her infant daughter with her brother Maxwell Turner, believing it was in the child's best interest. Now, having achieved stability and sobriety, she wishes to resume her parental role and provide guidance as her daughter enters adulthood. He painted Arlene as a victim of circumstance, a young woman who'd made a sacrifice, spent years healing, and now sought redemption. The narrative was compelling, crafted to tug heartstrings and obscure inconvenient truths. Arlene took the stand, dressed conservatively, makeup subtle, every inch the reformed mother. She testified about her struggles at 24, Keith's death, financial hardship, the terror of single motherhood. I couldn't give Iris what she needed, Arlene said, tears streaming convincingly. So I gave her to Maxwell because I knew he'd protect her, raise her right. It broke my heart, but I thought it was the right thing to do. And why are you seeking custody now? Stuart Wiley prompted. Because I'm finally the mother Iris deserves. I'm stable, married, ready to be in her life. I've missed 18 years, Your Honor. I don't want to miss another day. She glanced at Iris in the gallery, a calculated look of maternal longing. Iris stared back, her expression unreadable. Harris Reed cross-examined carefully. Mrs. Ariano, you claim you gave Iris to her uncle. But isn't it true you abandoned her? I left her with family. At 2 a.m., with no warning, telling your brother you needed one night and never returning. That's abandonment, isn't it? I was struggling. You signed away all parental rights 6 months later. That document states you voluntarily and permanently relinquish all legal claim to the minor child. Those are your words, your signature. Arlene dabbed her eyes. I was coerced. Maxwell said if I didn't sign, he'd make sure I never saw her again. It was a lie, but impossible to disprove without Maxwell testifying. Harris moved on. In 18 years, how many birthday cards did you send Iris? Silence. How many Christmas presents? I wanted to, but Maxwell wouldn't let me. How many times did you attempt to contact her before 4 months ago? Arlene faltered. I was respecting the custody arrangement. The custody arrangement you now claim was coerced? Harris's voice was sharp. Mrs. Ariano, isn't it true that you only became interested in Iris after learning about her $2.3 million trust fund? That's a lie. Arlene's tears were real now, angry, desperate. I love my daughter. You love her inheritance, Harris corrected. No further questions, Your Honor. Stuart Wiley called character witnesses, a therapist who testified to Arlene's remarkable progress, a friend from her charity work who described her as nurturing and maternal. Even Irving Ariano himself, who spoke of his wife's deep regret over the separation from her daughter. Irving was smooth, convincing. He had no idea his wife had been plotting to use Iris's money to save his failing business. Maxwell almost felt sorry for him. Almost. By the end of day one, the public narrative favored Arlene. Social media erupted with support. Give this mother a chance. Family reunification is what matters. The uncle is punishing her for past mistakes. But Maxwell wasn't worried. He had the envelope. Chapter 8. The Destruction. Day 2 began with Maxwell taking the stand. He was calm, prepared, every answer precise. Harris Reed walked him through Iris's childhood, the soccer games, the science fairs, the late-night homework sessions, the college applications. Maxwell didn't embellish or perform emotion. He simply recounted 18 years of devoted fatherhood. And during this time, did Arlene Turner ever attempt to contact you regarding Iris? Once, Maxwell said. 3 years ago, she sent a Facebook message asking if Iris was still alive. I responded with a photo of Iris at her high school science fair. Arlene replied, "Cool," and never followed up. The gallery murmured. Stuart Wiley's objection was overruled. "Mr. Turner, why do you believe your sister is seeking custody now?" Maxwell looked directly at Arlene. "Because Iris recently inherited a trust fund worth $2.3 million, and my sister needs money." Stuart Wiley shot to his feet. "Objection. Speculation and character assassination." "Sustained," Judge Hale said. "Mr. Turner, stick to facts." "Then let me present facts, Your Honor," Maxwell said. He nodded to Harris, who approached the bench with a sealed manila envelope. Thick, ominous, carefully prepared. "What is this?" Judge Hale asked. "Evidence that definitively proves Arlene Turner's motives and character," Harris said. "We request permission to enter it into the record." Stuart Wiley objected strenuously, but Judge Hale was intrigued. "I'll review it in chambers. Court will recess for 30 minutes. The wait was excruciating. Iris sat between Maxwell and Louisa, her hands clenched tight. "What's in the envelope?" she whispered. "The truth," Maxwell said quietly. "All of it." When court reconvened, Judge Hale's expression was glacial. He looked at Arlene not with sympathy, but with barely concealed disgust. "Mrs. Ariano," he said, his voice hard, "I've reviewed the evidence presented by Mr. Turner. Before we proceed, I want to give you an opportunity to withdraw your petition. This is your only chance." Arlene glanced at Stuart Wiley, confused. "I don't understand." "Then let me make it clear," Judge Hale said. He opened the envelope and removed the first document. "This is an email you sent to your husband 2 weeks before filing this petition. Would you like me to read it aloud?" Arlene's face went white. Judge Hale read the email in full, his voice dripping contempt. The gallery exploded. Reporters scribbled frantically. Irving Ariano stood and walked out, his face a mask of betrayal and rage. "This email clearly establishes that your interest in Iris Turner is financial, not parental," Judge Hale continued. "But that's not all Mr. Turner has provided." He removed another document. "This is testimony from Vince Hunter, your former landlord, detailing your pattern of abandoned leases and unpaid debts. This is employment records showing 11 terminated positions in 18 years. This is the hospital report from Iris's birth, where nursing staff noted you showed no interest in the infant and left AMA without clearance 4 hours post-delivery." Each revelation was a hammer blow. Arlene shrank in her seat. "This," Judge Hale said, holding up another paper, "is the custody agreement you signed, witnessed, and notarized, voluntarily relinquishing all parental rights. Your signature is clear. The notary testified there was no coercion. You were smiling when you signed. And finally," he said, removing the last document, "this is a declaration from Iris Turner herself, submitted to this court yesterday. Would you like me to read what your daughter has to say about you?" "No," Arlene whispered. "Please." Judge Hale read it anyway. "I am Iris Turner, and I am 18 years old. The woman claiming to be my mother is a stranger. Maxwell Turner is my father in every way that matters. He raised me, loved me, sacrificed for me. He never once made me feel abandoned, even though I was. Arlene Turner did not give me to my uncle out of love. She threw me away because I was inconvenient. She doesn't want a relationship with me. She wants my money. I respectfully ask this court to deny her petition and grant my father, Maxwell Turner, full legal protection from any future claims. I want nothing to do with Arlene Turner, now or ever." The courtroom was silent. Arlene was openly sobbing, but no one offered sympathy. Judge Hale set down the papers and removed his glasses, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Mrs. Ariano," he said quietly, "when did you plan to tell your daughter the truth about why you came back?" Arlene couldn't answer. "Never," Maxwell said from the witness stand. She never planned to tell her. She wanted to present herself as the loving mother, gain legal access to Iris's trust, and drain it dry before Iris even understood what was happening. Judge Hale looked at Maxwell. Mr. Turner, you've presented one of the most comprehensive cases I've seen in 30 years on the bench. Your documentation is thorough, your evidence is damning, and your dedication to your daughter, yes, your daughter, is beyond question. He turned to Arlene, his expression hard as stone. Mrs. Ariano, your petition is denied. Furthermore, I am issuing a permanent restraining order prohibiting you from contacting Iris Turner through any means. You will remain at least 500 feet from her at all times. Violation will result in immediate arrest. Stuart Wiley tried to object, but Judge Hale cut him off. I'm not finished. Based on the evidence of fraud presented, specifically your intent to gain access to your daughter's trust fund through false pretenses, I am referring this case to the District Attorney's Office for criminal investigation. Perjury, attempted fraud, possibly more. Arlene's sobs turned to gasps. No, please, I didn't mean. You meant every word, Judge Hale said coldly. You saw your daughter as a paycheck, and you lied under oath in my courtroom to get it. That has consequences, Mrs. Ariano. Serious consequences. He banged his gavel. This court finds in favor of Maxwell Turner. Full custody, unnecessary given Iris's age, but I'm granting it symbolically to establish a clear legal record. Arlene Turner has no parental rights, no access to Iris's inheritance, and no place in this young woman's life. Case closed. The gallery erupted. Reporters rushed for the exits. Arlene collapsed in her chair, her carefully constructed facade shattered beyond repair. Maxwell stepped down from the stand and walked to Iris, pulling her into a tight embrace. It's over, he whispered. You're safe. You're mine. Forever. I always was, Dad. Iris said, tears streaming down her face. I always was. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. 3 months later, Maxwell sat on his back porch, watching the sun set over the garden Louisa had cultivated for 18 years. Iris was at MIT, thriving in her first semester, calling home every Sunday without fail. Her trust fund was secure, managed by a financial advisor Maxwell trusted, untouchable by anyone but Iris herself. Arlene's life had imploded spectacularly. The criminal investigation had resulted in charges of perjury and attempted fraud. She'd pled guilty to avoid trial, receiving 2 years probation and a permanent record. Irving Ariano had filed for divorce within a week of the hearing, and the prenuptial agreement she'd signed left her with nothing. Her social media following had evaporated, replaced by thousands of comments calling her a gold digger and deadbeat mother. She'd moved out of state, last Maxwell heard, living in a studio apartment and working retail. The life she'd tried to steal from Iris had been stripped away, leaving only the consequences of 18 years of selfishness. Maxwell felt no satisfaction in her destruction, only relief that the threat was gone. Clayton Pennington visited that evening, bringing beer and old stories. They sat on the porch, comfortable in the silence of old friends. You know the crazy thing? Clayton said eventually. She could have just reached out. Really reached out, not the fake social media stalking. She could have apologized, explained she was young and stupid, asked for a chance to know Iris without demanding anything. Iris is a good kid. She might have given her a chance. But that would require genuine remorse, Maxwell said. Arlene's never been capable of that. She's only ever seen people as what they can give her. And now she has nothing. Now she has what she always gave Iris, Maxwell corrected. Nothing. Harris Reed had sent the final paperwork that morning, a legal document establishing Maxwell as Iris's permanent guardian of record, even though she was 18 and didn't need one. It was symbolic, but symbols mattered. Maxwell Turner was legally recognized as the father he'd always been. Louisa joined them on the porch, settling into the chair beside Maxwell's. She'd been Iris's mother in every way except biology for 13 years, and the court had recognized that too, granting her legal parental status alongside Maxwell. Iris called, Louisa said. She aced her first organic chemistry exam. Wants to come home for Thanksgiving. Of course she does, Maxwell said, smiling. Where else would she go? That night, alone in his study, Maxwell opened the drawer where he'd kept Arlene's abandonment documented for 18 years. Every piece of evidence, every carefully preserved message, every detail that had built the case that saved his daughter. He didn't need them anymore. One by one, he fed them into the shredder. The police report from when Arlene disappeared. The emails where she denied Iris's existence. The witness statements from people she'd screwed over. All of it gone. He kept only 3 things. The original custody agreement Arlene had signed so eagerly, Iris's birth certificate listing her as his daughter by court order, and the declaration Iris had written for the judge, the one where she'd called him her father. Those, he placed in a safe deposit box. Not as weapons, but as proof. Proof that family wasn't biology. It was choice. It was presence. It was 18 years of showing up, every single day, even when it was hard. Proof that Maxwell Turner had won not just in court, but in every way that mattered. Arlene had given birth to Iris, but Maxwell had made her his daughter. And no judge, no custody petition, no amount of money would ever change that truth. In the end, that was all the victory Maxwell needed. Epilogue. 4 years later, Iris Turner graduated from MIT summa cum laude. Maxwell and Louisa sat in the front row, cheering louder than anyone as she crossed the stage to receive her diploma. After the ceremony, Iris found them in the crowd, her graduation cap askew, her smile brilliant. "I got the Stanford acceptance," she said breathlessly. "Full ride for the MD-PhD program. I'm going to be a biomedical engineer and a doctor." Maxwell pulled her into a bear hug, pride swelling so huge he couldn't speak. "Your father would be so proud," Louisa said, wiping tears. She meant Maxwell, not Keith Boyer. They all knew it. That night, Iris posted a photo on social media, the 3 of them, arms linked, smiling under the MIT banner. The caption read simply, "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who shows up. Thank you, Dad, for everything." The post went viral, just like Arlene's had 4 years earlier. But this story had a different ending. This story was about love that had earned its place. And that, Maxwell Turner knew, was the only story worth telling. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.